Hey everybody, St. Paul Peterson here, and welcome to episode 59 of Music on the Run. Fellow bassist, fellow Prince alumni, Andrew Gouche is my next guest on Music on the Run. Enjoy. Hey everybody, St. Paul here, and welcome to another episode of Music on a Run. 59 to be exact. Man, I cannot believe that we have 59 episodes. Big one coming around the corner, 60. It's going to be a lot of fun. Summer's coming to an end here in Minnesota. I hope I didn't really just say snow because, if I say that, it's going to happen next month. Still beautiful outside here, and the Minnesota State Fair is about to get rocking and rolling. I don't know about you, but if you have a state fair where you're at, but the Minnesota State Fair is the absolute bomb. I love going to it. I used to play at the talent show there. I played at the grandstand stage. It's just a great family hang, lots of food. You kind of eat your way through this whole thing, and we bring our kids. It's a fantastic thing. So if you ever get a chance to come to the Minnesota State Fair, do it. Well, without further ado, I want to introduce you to my next guest. He's a fellow bass player, producer, a composer, and we actually just did a Funk Friday with another bass brother by the name of Will Lee.
Yep.
He's played with James Cleveland. Now, take notes now. Andre Crouch, BB and CeCe Winans, the Hawkins family, Shaka, and Prince, to name just a very few. He basically created gospel bass playing. He has a Grammy in his arsenal. Please welcome my new friend, Andrew Gouche.
My brother, how you doing, man?
This is so great, and because we don't know each other, I wanted to cut right into the interview because that's part of this hang is just getting to know each other just a little bit. Where am I finding you? Where are you? Where's your studio at?
In Las Vegas, in my house.
Oh, you were in Vegas.
Vegas, yeah. I moved here in January. Been here. We actually had relocated to Seattle for a couple of years. But we left there, and I just, once you leave LA, it's different,
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's almost becoming unattainable to live there for people,
Cost of living.
Yeah. And so I wanted to be close, but I didn't want to go back, and I'm 3.5 hours away if I want to get in my car and drive down there, so, and I go down there quite a bit to work, but I'm very happy in my peace and quiet where I am.
Yeah.
Las
in Vegas.
But,
people are talking about
associate Vegas with the Strip, There's a wealth of talent and really amazing community here of creatives that I was actually shocked to find, because everybody knows the stereotypes of Vegas, Elvis impersonators and whatnot. But it's actually a really cool place. And when you get away from the Strip, there's a lot going on here, and I like it because it's quiet. Everybody talks about the heat, but everybody has air conditioning. So
that's true.
Just go in the house and turn your air on, and that's what you do. So I've been here going on actually 8 months now, and I actually love it being here.
Wow. Yeah. You grew up in LA though, so you lived there your whole life, or did you ever move away from there?
Well, no, I didn't move until 19. I moved to Seattle in 19, and right before the big shutdown, and so I spent the pandemic in Seattle.
Oh,
Seattle was beautiful, but it was different for me because I was literally just in my studio like every day.
I was going to ask you this. how did the pandemic affect you and change you?
Well, I mean, just, and I have to say, I was one of those very skeptical people about the vaccination and all of that stuff, man, and then I saw the back and forth, one way or another. And I had to come to the realization that what the heck do I know, So I got vaccinated because I felt like I was being considerate of other people, but I was like, I heard these people talking about, well, I did my research and then you hear the follow the science people.
Yeah.
I just thought about all the stuff we allow into our systems every day. We don't know where it came from.
That's right.
Is your organic asparagus really organic? We don't know because they put a sticker on
it. It says it on there, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did it, man. I didn't have any kind of after effects or anything, but just I was in my studio. And it's funny because that's what I was doing before. And because I do a lot of recording for people like all over the world. And I was doing that. And I just kept doing that. The only difference was you couldn't go to the grocery store, not being able to go places for a little while was absolutely just, it's mind blowing that I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime, where you couldn't go anywhere. And Seattle, Washington was even more stringent with their, mandates than a lot of other places were. And so, but, I lived through it just like everybody else did, man. I couldn't get none of that stimulus money that everybody was getting.
Okay, so what people don't understand is that people that have a 9 to 5, and I'm going to generalize here. I guess what I'm trying to say is that musicians who are self-employed had a harder time receiving stimulus money than someone who had, I don't know, it's not traceable income, but predictable income, I guess is a better way to put it. Did that find you as well?
Yeah, I just couldn't get it. I tried a couple of times and I was like, but the crazy part was we were really okay and we were really blessed. So we weren't adversely affected financially by it,
Right.
My wife worked all through the pandemic. And then just with the things that I was doing, sessions just kept coming in. And then I started giving lessons online, and on Skype and Zoom. And that really, I was really shocked because I didn't even think I had the temperament to even do that, to teach. Then I started doing it and I found great joy in doing it, and it was really, really cool for me to discover that about myself, that I could do that,
Had you ever taught before? You've done clinics, but have you ever taught one-on-one?
No. So the pandemic.
Are you self-taught, by the way?
So I learned how to play in church, man. And
right.
That's just like Reverend James Cleveland's church. I used to sing in the choir. And in 73, my mother got me a bass. And
wait a minute, Mom, time out. Did you say your mother got you a bass?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole world thanks you, Mom.
Yep. It came from Sears. It was a Teisco bass.
I hope you have that still somewhere.
No, it fell apart, man.
He played it into the ground.
I did. I played it till it didn't work anymore. And
that's beautiful.
Combo, the Sears Teisco bass and the Sears Silvertone amp. It was a 12-inch speaker. The amp was 40 watts. It was a combo. And I played that thing until the woofer just came all the way apart, all the way around. And it would just be going like this when I played. And
so your mom bought you the bass. Were your parents, or are your parents musical?
And my mother, absolutely. A lot of people don't know that. But my niece and my nephews. My nephew is the rapper D Smoke. A lot of people have heard of him. He was on that show on Netflix, the competition show called Rhythm and Flow. It's like American Idol, but for rap. And
cool.
He won the whole thing. Cardi B, Chance the Rapper, and T.I. were the judges. Snoop was a guest judge on there. So he won the whole thing, man. And my sister's boys are all doing a lot of stuff in the industry now. But I always tell people my mother is the tree where all of this fruit came from. My sister is an incredible gospel songwriter and singer. She's written some of the biggest gospel songs ever.
Come on.
And
really?
So, yeah. And so it's actually just amazing to see it now, you know, because I remember when they were all little babies, you know, and now they're like seriously doing things in the industry. And it's actually cool for me because I get to play bass on their stuff.
Nepotism at its finest. I understand about that. My whole family's the same way. So it's like, you got a gig for me, big brother?
Right.
Yes, yes, I do.
Right. Yeah.
So are you must be the oldest then. You're just saying
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have brothers as well?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay, so there's 1 sister's in the industry then?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
and my other brother is 2 years younger than me. He's also an incredible songwriter, but he went the 9-to-5 route. You know,
Got it.
He wanted security, so he was like, "Yeah, I'll just go get me a job." You know,
I understand. I ain't mad at him.
Songwriter though.
So we were talking about the fact that your mother gave you a bass.
Mm-hmm.
You're self-taught. How do you teach yourself bass? I mean, how does that work?
Well, you know, for me, it's especially how I came up. There were, you know, people will say, "Well, who were you influenced by?" There were no gospel bass players. You know,
what were they? Were they using the bass pedals on the organ?
Yeah,
I got it.
Like the name of the first album, actually, it's my only record. I'm working on the second one. Is the name of it is "We Don't Need No Bass."
I've listened to it for the last 5 days, man. I love it.
And that title comes from actual experiences that I had trying to go to churches to play, and they wouldn't let me play. They'd be like, "We don't need the bass. The organ player can play bass on the pedals." And that's where that came from. And I'm just glad I've lived long enough to see gospel evolve the way it has into it. Literally influences all kind of music, you know.
Sure did.
Most of the cats
has and still does.
Huh? Yeah.
Still does, like crazy.
Yeah. The cats that we see that are doing all the top gigs in the industry, they're all church boys.
They're all yes, they are. They sure are.
And so it just makes me very happy to see that, you know, because I remember when it wasn't accepted like it is now, you know. And then I'm glad I still get a chance to play every now and then too, you know.
Well, I would hope so. When I did my research on you, and you were speaking about learning the bass, they finally let you play the bass, and you took over for the organ player didn't have to play pedals anymore. You were the one who was. I'm sorry.
They started seeing how it added to the overall experience, you know, and my people especially can be steeped in traditions, and it's hard to break those traditions, you know. So it's like chipping away until those walls started coming down, you know. And there was a time when girl couldn't go into church if her head wasn't covered, you know, and all those kind of things.
Customs, traditions, cultural.
Yeah. Man. So I just kept doing what I do. And it was really weird because, you know, like I said, people asked me who my influences were. My influences were singers. And I think that's why I play the way I play. Like I don't know the standard modes and I don't know all this stuff, man, you know. And
but yet you know. You do know.
Yeah.
Your ears are so big that you know all that stuff.
I just don't know what it's called.
Well, that's fine. Who cares? As long as you can play it from your heart, man. And that's one of the things I don't mean to interrupt you, but what I notice about your playing for me is it's all about your heart. I totally feel that in your playing. Is that something that you are conscious about? Is that something where you draw on that just to be free? Or tell me about your approach.
I think that's just how I've always been. And I never consciously did anything thinking, okay, if I do this, then people will like me. You know?
I have.
I never did that. And
God bless him, man.
what I felt, and people started gravitating to what I do, and but on the flip side of that, there are people that absolutely hate the way I play, like I realized many, many years ago that certain gigs I was never going to get, only
Right.
because people's perception, even when I got the gig with Prince, everybody was like, well, how is that going to work? The way Gouche playing with Prince, and I tell people how it works is if I want to keep the gig, then I do what he want me to do, period. That's all it is, and I was never going to try to impose my will on his gig, but what I loved about him was because what I said to him when he called me, and when I got there, I said, hey man, look, whatever you want me to do, just let me know. And his exact words were, I want you to do your thing. And he said, and if there's something specific that I want, then I'll tell you. And
you know how rare, to my listeners, you know how rare that is for someone, especially like Prince, to say that to any of their musicians, let alone the bass player. What freedom that was. That must have been like, I can be who I am. And that's the easiest one to be, right?
I think when he saw me, I was MD at Shaka. And
you were the musical director for Shaka?
Yeah. And I'll never forget the first time we opened up for him, he came looking for me. And he was like, oh man, dude, you were killing. Like, who did those arrangements? And I was like, I did, and then it was funny because we opened up for him a few more times. And every time we did our set, he would be over on the side, like near the monitor guy, like with his shades on, like watching me play. And I was
he was checking you out.
He really was, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what's crazy. What I was not aware, and what I found out, was how aware of a whole bunch of players he was. He was aware of a lot of people, man, and that tripped me out. Like he knew a lot of the gospel cats' names. He'd name them and go, "Do you know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know him," because I know all the gospel dudes.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but so I just, I did what I felt until he told me what to play, and then I played what he told me.
Right.
A lot of times people see, especially like on YouTube, what always gets all the attention is all the acrobatics and the flashy things, and then people see that and then they form a judgment based on that, not understanding, especially a lot of the younger generation. Because, dude, next year makes 50 years I've been playing bass, man.
God bless you, man. That's beautiful. 50 years.
50, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. But people don't realize, like, some of the records I did. Like, I did Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It. That's me on bass.
No. I would do it.
Just don't. That's all I did, I did Gangster's Paradise. And people don't realize, they see, like, especially me playing in church and some of that stuff I did, it's just a different kind of music, and I could really be free, to do what I felt. And so, but I've done a lot of things, man, that were really like structured and just play this. So I could do that too.
Yeah. Did you ever feel, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but pigeonholed or put into a box to where you didn't think you'd ever get out of playing gospel music? Not that necessarily that you didn't, that would have been a problem.
Because what I did realize, I was playing with James Cleveland, and I just had a hunger and a thirst to just broaden my horizons and learn more.
Yeah.
And I realized after a while that I was never gonna grow in just being in that situation. So, and it's funny because my life is a series of being in the right place at the right time, because from playing with James, we went to Oakland one year, and that's how I met Walter Hawkins. And then I got the gig with the Hawkins family. And then in 83, I went to Israel with James. And that's where I met Andre Crouch.
Oh my.
And Andre was my favorite gospel artist at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
he heard me play and he was like, I used to look at these people's names on records, man. You know, I used to take the LP and pull the sleeve out and read
Oh
the
yeah.
credits.
Of
And
course.
I used to look at these people's names and like wonder what it would be like to meet them, you know? And so Andre Crouch is telling me that he loves my playing. I'm going, yeah, okay, yeah, right. Andre Crouch loves my playing. And he's like, he said, I want to work with you. And then a month later, I'm in the studio with him recording an album, and Joe Sample is on Rhodes on this particular
I
song.
love Joe. I got to work with Joe too. That's
And because of that, being in that session with Andre, I played with the Crusaders for a while, you know, and then because working with Andre was the one that introduced the Winans. Like he produced their first album.
Right.
So one year we played with the Winans when they came to LA, and that's how I started playing with the Winans. So things happen like that. And it just
but there's got to be a secret sauce. There's got to be some. What do you think is that secret sauce for you? I mean, obviously, for me, it's your playing, but it's got to be so much more than that. What do you think it is?
I think, you know, for me, my playing is what got the initial attention, but I think it was just also my ability to adapt and to whatever I was playing, you know, because I started playing different things, but I was still able to function in those different environments. And I can't explain it, you know. It was just all the situations I went in, it like worked, you know.
Yeah.
And I always feel very blessed and grateful, because I didn't have to move to LA to get into the industry. I was born there.
You were there, yeah.
Yeah, you know, in all these situations. It wasn't until I moved to Seattle that I was ever put in a situation where I'm going, okay, I got to check out the scene here.
Yeah, I suppose.
You know,
You were the new guy.
Yeah. What a blessing for me is they all knew who I was when I came, but that's a two-edged sword, because I saw on this one musician's website, Facebook page, they're like, Andrew Gouche relocated to Seattle, and then these guys are on there saying, oh, wow, you better hide your gigs. I was going to come and try to steal everybody's gig, which I wasn't, you know.
Oh, man. Well, people are funny, man. People are funny.
So I just been, man, it's funny. I'm a man of faith, and I've always trusted God, and he's always taking care of me, man. And even being here, people were like, when I came to Vegas, they're like, oh, you got a residency? Is that what you're doing? I was like, no, I bought a residence. I got a house here. That's about it. But I haven't really been, I play at church, which is always going to be my first love. And then just other stuff I've been doing, man. But like, as far as gigging in Vegas, no, I haven't been gigging here at all.
Really?
Except playing at church, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Speaking of being a man of faith, as I am as well, talk to me about Manpower and what effect that had on your life.
It's funny because one thing that I had to realize is that as long as we're on earth, we're dealing with man, and man is subject to fail. And I was in a lot of situations, and I won't name names, where I got deeply disappointed by what I saw. You know, a lot of these people were singing one thing and doing another thing.
Right.
You know, and so I had never really felt the presence of God until I went to Manpower. And
what is Manpower for those of us who don't know?
Manpower is a conference put on by TD Jakes. And I went, it was 98 when I went to it. And uh, my whole life changed when I went to that thing. And it's crazy. I'm not trying to be all deep and, ramming anything down anybody's throat. But for
No,
me,
but this is your story, and I want to know.
um, it was like everything that was said, and there were 5,000 people in this room. I felt like every word was directed right to me. And I felt like nobody else was in there except me. And he was talking to me. And I had gotten to a place in my life where I was really, because what doing what we do, what we're exposed to, what's
Oh, yeah.
available. And, you know, I took full advantage of it, but then I got to a point where I said, you know what? I'm tired of living my life like this, and that's why I went there, because I had heard about it. And then that was the first time I ever felt the presence of God. And it knocked me down on my knees, on my face on the floor. And it was, I can't even explain the feeling, but I was never the same after that. I knew certain things that I was doing I couldn't do anymore, and that's where I am. Even now, it's like there's nothing new under the sun, and I just want to be. I really want to live my life the right way, and I don't want to look back with any kind of regret. And so I just want to be the best person I can be, live my life with integrity and literally with holiness, that's where I am. So, that's why I think one of my focus, even in my playing, I get such a joy because I recognize that I have a gift, and I recognize where it came from. Every day that I can still pick up my guitar and play is a blessing to me, And even though I haven't done well, lately I've been playing with my nephew, which has been amazing. I feel like the grandfather out there with these but
Show them, teach them.
But when I'm just even sitting here in the studio playing, man, like I'll turn on, this is my drummer right here, guy on, and we just go for it, man, and I've been writing a lot, because that's when people ask me, like, when you practice, what do you practice on? I'm writing like every time I play. And that's why I make sure when I do start playing, I always
record.
Yeah. If I got an idea, this is a sampler too, I'll sample it. And a lot of times I'll go back and listen to stuff, and I forgot that I did it. And that's how I did with a bunch of my songs, man. So yeah.
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 Do you feel that your bass playing is a sort of ministry? Do you treat it that way? Is it more personal, more subtle, or do you think it's out there?
I think that I've seen tangible evidence of my playing blessing people, and one of the times I really kind of understood how music can do that is when I was going to Japan. You've been to Japan, right?
Oh, yeah.
And to have the language barrier that they have, but then to see the sheer and utter joy that these people have listening, and crying and all that kind of stuff, man. And that's what music does. And I'm not a soloist, but I know that there's something about my playing that affects people. All I do is play from my heart. I'm never in a place where I'm trying to show off and impress people, because there's a lot of people that can do a million things that I can't do, but all I can do is be Andrew Gouche, and that's all I'm ever going to try to do.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. Let's focus just for the next few minutes on some of the cool things that you have done. I want to tell my listeners and viewers about. You sang background vocals on Man in the Mirror.
Yeah.
Tell us that story.
It's really hilarious because Andre Crouch, he got a lot of those calls because like we did the Lion King soundtrack.
No kidding.
We did a Julio Iglesias song one time. We did Madonna's Like a Prayer. I'm singing on Like a Prayer.
No.
We did
Right?
Color Purple. On Color Purple, the scene where the girl in the church is singing, that's my sister's voice. That's my sister Jackie's voice.
Come on.
And then Suge Avery's voice, you know, the Jug Joint singer, that's Tata Vega. That's Tata's voice on there.
I didn't know that.
And it's Andre Crouch's singers doing all the vocals on it, and that's Andre playing ragtime piano on there. And
really?
Yeah, he was amazing doing that, man.
Oh.
But the Michael Jackson thing, it's funny. I actually have a really funny story because when we went to do it, we didn't see him. We thought he wasn't there. And I seemed okay, but I'm like, I always made sure it was an ensemble of 9 of us. I always made sure I was all the way in the back, the furthest away from the microphone.
That's not what I hear. I hear you're a great singer. But anyway.
Well, I used to be, but I've got something wrong with. I have nodules on my vocal cords. That's why I sound like I'm hoarse all the time now. But so we're working out the parts on the song, and I don't know if you've ever been to Westlake Studios in LA.
Oh, yeah.
And the big room, there's a piano booth, but it's big 9-foot grand piano is in there, and it's sliding glass door, you know, you can totally enclose it. But the back wall of that room is like a semicircle, and it's all mirrors, glass. And so I'm standing in the back, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something red. And I was like, I looked, and I didn't see anything. So we're going along, working on the parts. I see it again and again. And then I finally realized that what I'm looking at over here is a reflection of what's over here. And I turn around and I look down, and Michael Jackson and this little girl are under the piano, like hiding, like they were hiding to see like how long they could be there before they were discovered. Right. And we had been there at least an hour, and nobody saw him. And when I saw him, it shocked me because I'd never seen him in person. Right. And I did this, and they were just looking up at me like this. And so I turned around and just kept singing. And then he and the little girl got up like little kids, man. It was a trip. He's holding the little girl's hand, and they come running out like little kids, almost frolicking, right? Yeah. And he came and stood right in front of us, and he just looked at us, and then they ran out of the room like little kids. And then they went up to there's a room that overlooks the studio. They were up there in the window looking at us, and then Michael came down. Quincy was in the control room. He started whispering in Quincy's ear, and Quincy was like, hey, you guys, Michael wants you to try this, you know, and we started trying different stuff that he wanted. And it was just weird, man. It was crazy. Wow. That's why even when all that stuff, you know, was going on with him, I never believed it because what I saw was he was like a little kid, you know, and, you know, most people can't relate to somebody like that who his whole life, he could never go out in public. Right. So he didn't go through the natural things that you know, to help you grow and mature. So he was like a little kid. He'd been in his own world, in a shell his whole life. So, yeah, that's my Michael Jackson story.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of more names. Shaka. Tell me about the good stuff as being the MD.
Well, for me, it was nothing but good stuff. And it was amazing because Shaka, I met her. I don't know if you ever heard of Karen Briggs, incredible violinist. If you ever saw that concert of Yanni at the Acropolis and the girl with the red dress on with the dress playing violin, that's Karen Briggs.
Okay.
And we used to play together in LA a lot. There was a little place called Lava Lee.
Oh, I know it.
We used to play, and Shaka came one time and to Lava Lee when we were playing. This was about 2003, I think, 2003 or 4. And so she's sitting there, Shaka loves bass players. And her husband, Hassan Khan, I think he was a bass player. And she was like watching me play and she was freaking out, dude. And she was freaking out to the point where it was kind of weird a little bit. And then after the gig, she came up to me and she grabbed my face and she kissed me in the mouth. She said, baby, you going on the road with me. And during that time, from 98 to 2006, I didn't tour. In 98, I had been touring 20 years and I felt like I didn't want to go on the road anymore. So I stopped.
You stopped? Yeah.
But during that time, I had a song on Mary Mary's first album, which I did an arrangement of Wade in the Water, old gospel song. But it was on the record that had that song, Take the Shackles Off My Feet So I Can Dance. That record sold 4 million copies. And I was the only one on the record that had 100% writers and publishing on the song. So that's when I learned that there's a whole other kind of money that you ain't gonna never get just being a musician.
Mailbox money.
Yeah. So I was actually really, really cool for a long time. Right. People were like, well, who you playing with now? I'm like, I'm not playing with anybody. And then they're like, okay, what is this guy doing? Because they see what I'm driving and some people knew where I lived. There's like, okay, this guy got something else going on.
Right.
But when I met Shaka, she came, she kissed me and like, you're going on the road with me. And I said, you know what? I don't really travel, but I'm very, very flattered. And thank you, And then in 2006, I got a call from her manager and she said, Shaka's been looking for you. She wants you to be her musical director, which was weird because I had no experience with her. She didn't know anything about me being a musical director.
Right.
And then she said some words to me that nobody ever said before. She said, how much do you want? Usually they call you for a gig and tell you what it pays.
$5.
Right. And so I said, when she said that to me, I said, well, you put me on the spot. She's like, I'm trying to put you on the spot. And so I said the highest number I thought I could get away with that they would say yes to. And I said it and she was like, okay. And I was like, crap. She said, yeah, too fast. I should have said more.
Yes, you should have. Lesson learned right there.
Yeah, but it was great, man. Shaka's such a beautiful soul, man, and a deeply caring person. She's been through a lot of stuff, man, but she's literally one of the most deeply caring people that I've ever met, So I had the honor of being with her for almost 6 years.
Wow.
And it was just cool, and it's funny, like artists like that, they sing, they have to sing the same songs
for 50, 60 years.
So a lot of times what they do, what keeps it fresh for them is to change personnel. Right. So we got informed that we were being let go in 2011. And I just told her, I said, I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with you. Said, I love you and I wish you the best. And I've seen her a couple of times since, but it was weird because literally a week after that happened, Cassandra O'Neill, Prince's keyboard player, called and said, Prince wants to know if he can have your number. He wants to call you.
Wow. And
then he called me the next day. So, I guess, things happen for a reason.
They sure do.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And your time with Prince? Talk a little bit about that. You had a good time?
For me, it was a great experience because it put me in the kind of environment that I had never been in. I'd never been in any environment where there was structure. Like it was like, this is what you have to do. And so I had to learn how to do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget, we were playing Cool. And this is when I found out that he absolutely hates ghost notes. And so, your natural fiddles, I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
I'm doing that bouncy thing. And he was like, stop. So he wanted me to just go boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
And that was it. And that was the hardest thing for me to do. And I literally, because he'll play a groove for like a half hour.
At least.
And I'm sitting there playing that, and I literally looked down at my neck and it looked like my notes started moving.
You were hypnotized.
I really was, man.
Yeah.
But I learned how to, I learned that I could just do one thing, period, and also I learned how to use distortion because I'd never used distortion. But just to be able to be in his presence when he's in his creative process was pretty amazing, because he'd hear things and you don't necessarily hear it. Like he said, you do this, okay, you do this, but then you hear it all together and it's like, oh, okay. So he was great, man. He was dope. And just, you work with him, it's like Prince was perfection or nothing. There was no alternative. I remember we did the Montreux Jazz Festival, and I missed a cue on musicology. And it was supposed to be a 4-bar drum break, and I didn't come in for 8 bars. And Prince goes on the drum break when I'm getting ready to play. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, on bass, Andrew Gouche, and he's 4 bars late.
Well, usually he'd fine you at that point too. $5, $20.
Man, and it was so funny because you can see it on the video. It hurt my feelings that I had missed a cue.
Yeah.
Because you just didn't want to mess up at all. And it's all over my face because I was supposed to start playing. I was like, and I go like this.
Oh man, I'm so glad that
I messed up on the gig. But it's there for all the world to see, which is funny but not funny, I'm
glad we share that in common, man. What a genius he was, and you're right. He taught me something coming up when I was just a kid, and my listeners know my story, but I come from a bebop family, and it's all about how can you improvise a situation, and how can you come up with cool different changes and different arrangements. And then he said, oh no, you're going to play this, because I was in the time, so I was playing keyboards in the time, so I was playing the bass line with my left hand. There was no ghost notes. You did that. You had a job to do. And he really taught me about parts playing.
Right.
And how that works and how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. And that's so cool that you got that same lesson as well from him.
Yeah. And it's very gratifying when you listen back to it. And
Isn't it though?
Yeah, and it's like, that's great. And it's so clean and precise. And then you're like glad you were a part of it,
Right. It sounds like a record.
Yeah, exactly.
It does.
Exactly, yeah.
As you approach 50 years, what's the most important thing to you at this point in your career?
I don't want to leave anything undone. I have a lot of songs that I've written. It's funny because for a lot of musicians, it's hard to reconcile yourself with the fact that one day you aren't going to get the calls you used to get. It doesn't matter that you can still play. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this thing is seasonal like everything else is. Kobe retired, Jordan retired. They were
Right.
great, but
That's
their
right.
season passed. And so that's the hard thing for a lot of creatives, I think, to deal with. Like one day you ain't the man no more, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you see all the little young bad dudes coming up. I'm inspired by them. Uh, but then you know, even when I think about, I try to picture myself on stage with some of these artists, and it would look ridiculous. It
Yeah,
would
I hear
it
you.
would look ridiculous. So, you know, what's Beyonce gonna be like? Ladies and gentlemen, on stage, on bass, my dad. You know what I'm saying? Oh,
It's true. It's hard to look at yourself like that because I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I still feel like I felt when I was a kid, a little bit different. But I mean, the energy's the same. I'm playing better than I've ever played in my life. But you're right. I would look absolutely ridiculous
yeah.
out with those young guys.
I feel that. I feel that too. I feel like I'm the best I've ever been on my instrument. You know, it's funny because there were certain things I used to do back then that I don't do as well. But I feel like overall, all I've grown, my approach to playing music is better than it's ever been. You know, and my sound is killing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but what happens to us, we have to figure it out, you know. Like there's other things, you know, it's not over, you know, but it's just moving into a new season, man. And I feel like this, like I feel about being healthy. If we like, because right now I've lost 16 pounds because, you know, I got that pandemic weight like everybody else did. A lot of
Yeah.
people, yeah. And so I'm working out and
Hi, what are you doing? This show is called Music on the Run for a reason. We
right.
talk about how you stay in shape when you're, and I didn't even ask you that, for crying out loud. In the last 2 minutes, now in the last 2 minutes of this interview, I'm going to ask you what you've been doing to lose that weight.
Well, I mean, you know, just change my diet, man, because I'm the kind of person, if I smell a donut, that's 5 pounds. You know, I got probably the slowest metabolism on earth. So
Uh-oh.
I gain weight really easy. But what I found out, I'm 63 years old, bro. And so, but I don't feel like a 63-year-old man. I don't think I look like one, you know.
Nope, you sure don't.
And, but just like, you know, working out, even like what we do, this is working out too. And you have to work out
Oh,
to
yeah.
stay in shape. And that's what I'm doing. I went through divorce. So that knocked me down for a minute, you know, for a good minute, and where I wasn't motivated to do anything. But now I'm just have such a positive attitude about life and playing, and I have a joy. My joy for playing is not contingent on who's watching me, you know. So I love to play like I always have, you know. And so I'm finishing up. I actually have 3 records that I'm finishing, and one of it is a gospel. I did a live recording with a group I had called the Praise Connection, and
Okay.
that record we recorded live, and it's a vocal album, and then I have an instrumental gospel record that I did. And so I'm finishing up all of this stuff, man. All of it is like 3/4 done, you know. So that's what I'm working on, man. You know, and I want to finish because I don't want to leave here and leave anything undone. I just want to put it all out there. I'm not worried about a record deal, any of that stuff, man. I want to release it into the atmosphere, and whatever it's gonna do, it's gonna do, you know. And you know, I do sessions, and you know, I'll keep doing that, you know. And somebody called me to go out of town and play, I'll go out of town and play. Actually, I'm going to Japan at the end of October. This Japanese artist who he sends me songs. I play on a lot of his records, and he asked me to come to Japan. So I'm going to go to Japan for 2 weeks to do some shows.
I miss it there. I love it over there.
Yeah, I absolutely love Japan, man. So, and that's what it is. I just want to make sure, because you actually get to that point where you're like, okay, I have far fewer days in front of me than I have behind me. So I want to make sure that I utilize all the time that I have, and be productive every day. And that's what I'm trying to do.
There you go.
Yeah.
From me, I want to say thank you, man. First of all, for coming onto the show and for being so cool. I had a hiccup in my schedule yesterday. You were nice enough to accommodate that. I appreciate that. I also want to thank you on behalf of so many bass players who have studied you and listened to you and learned from you, and you have been mentored by you, whether you know it or not, who you have ministered to through your music and changed people's lives through your playing. That's real. And know that is a truth, and you need to hear that, and you need to be recognized for that. And just thank you for that. Thank you for who you are, your positivity, and your continued growth, and your records you're about to put out. You better hurry up, get that out. Pick one, finish it, because we want to hear it. But really, thank you for spending the time with us, man, and so fun for me to get to know you, because of course I've heard your name forever, and we've been on the fringes of each other's lives for a while now, but that's all changed. That's all changed. So you ever come through Mini, you got a home here.
And well, brother, thank you for even thinking about me to do this, man. I'm very, very honored. And you're a bad boy too, man. We were talking about that. I've talked about you to a few people, man. I'm like, that joke was funky, man. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember when we came down when you guys were at the Dakota that time? I
sure do.
Yeah. I got in trouble.
You all hopped on the stage, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Prince was up in the room. He never came down. He wanted me to hold the show that night.
Oh, really?
I ain't holding no show. That was so fun. Can you hold the show for 20 minutes while I get there? And I'm like, no, I can't hold the show for 20 minutes. That's right, though. So I've played with Cassandra since that point, and a lot of those folks in the band, in the horns and all that, and it's been so cool to meet that next generation of people, because I was so long ago in the Prince camp, and now I'm kind of meeting all the other people who have come along since I was in the band, and you being one of them, man. It's just it's so great to get to know you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
How do we find you, man? Are you're on Instagram and all that?
Just Andrew Gouche. I don't have any fancy name. If you type in Andrew Gouche on Instagram, Facebook, and what's that other crazy thing? TikTok.
Oh, I better go check you out.
Yeah, that place. I got to stay off of there, because I get on there and I'm like, okay, 3 hours just passed. I'm still on here. So. But yeah, just the regular stuff, man. Just Andrew Gouche.
All right. Well, we wish you luck finishing that record. We can't wait to hear it. To everybody else out there, thanks for joining us. Episode 59 of Music on the Run. My name is St. Paul Peterson, and we will see you next time. Music on the Run was hosted by yours truly, St. Paul Peterson. Edited and produced by my buddy Davide Raso. Video editing by Emily Turner. And a very special thanks to the people who financially support this podcast. And remember to be grateful every single day.